Gotta say, folks, it's been a week. From raising over $7,000 last Sunday to the Tokyo tape on Thursday, things were already surreal enough. But it only got crazier over the weekend. Meeting the FTR and getting to attend Forbidden Door from a seat close enough, they had my lookalike on commentary. In the meantime, our fearless young guns held down the fort over on LNG GOLD, reacting live alongside Marcus. While I was too busy to reasonably recap the weekend's best, I did sit down with Kaden and Novi to discuss AEW's latest pay-per-view offering. Alright fellas, another Forbidden Door in the books. Very good show, probably a little bit lower than the AEW norm nowadays in terms of like great matches, but I thought it moved along nicely. Obviously I was in attendance, so a slightly different perspective, but I thought it was paced pretty well for a long show. And even if there wasn't a lot of great matches, there was a lot of stuff that landed in that good to very good range. I'm intrigued, Kaden, I'll start with you. What was your favorite match on the show?
My favorite match was the main event, the lights out steel cage. I thought that they put everything together very nicely in this. I was slightly worried because you have 10 men in that cage, but once they did that, the structure specifically that they did, I knew they were going to be fine. I thought that it hit people well whenever they needed to hide them. Everybody got their stuff in. I was shocked at how good Kota, I mean, not shocked because Kota's been really good recently, but like he really was, like, in my opinion, one of the big stars of that match. He did a lot of stuff and kind of helped cover for some other people. Will Ospreay, I was keeping an eye on him throughout the entire thing. And the way that man kind of just like bumped so that way he wasn't hitting his neck. Oh, ruled.
His body control is like, whatever you think of his philosophy about wrestling, Will Ospreay, I think we're all pretty positive on it and we like watching him wrestle. Even if you don't, the way he's able to control himself physically and his balance is like honestly freakish. It's especially when you sit up close, it's like no one else moves like that guy. And that's saying something. There's a lot of, very explosive guys in AEW. Yeah, I'm with you. I really enjoyed it. It was my favorite match on the show too. Obviously some elements that are not for everyone, right? As is the case with Moxley when he's given these kind of tools to play with. But I don't think any of us are turned off by the gore. So, Nobi, I'm going to presume that was your favorite too. What did you make of the main event, mate?
It was definitely my favorite. I think with Forbidden Door, the conversation surrounding it is kind of like, how do we get these big singles matches? How do we get these big 5-star affairs? This is actually what I want. I want a bunch of cool wrestlers all shoved together where they all get time to give their spots and do their stuff. I mean, you had Tanahashi was sitting there playing the hits, the finishes you just mentioned, Ospreay and the One-Winged Angel combination to close things out. Like, it was just a good time. And we were watching it at Grinalongs, so like, it was the three of us, me, Kaden, and Marcus. We're all just popping huge at everything because it was just, like the gummy bears come out instead of the thumbtacks. It's like, that's just silly. It's just fun, good vibes.
It felt in some ways like a match that was kind of, and this sounds derogatory, but I don't mean it that way. It was two matches kind of combined together, right? In the sense that in a lot of ways, actually, it felt like a very direct sequel to this year's Anarchy in the Arena. Which in that match, we talked about how the Bucks kind of merged their wrestling brain with Moxley to create this sort of Frankenstein monster. And you really saw that last night in this, on Forbidden Door days. I don't know when it's going to on Forbidden Door. So you really saw that because the Bucks, I thought the first half of the match was very PWG. You mentioned the kind of comedy spot, a little more silly, a little more light. And then Moxley starts to do his...
he grabs a fork.
Yes, he starts to craft a different kind of match, quite literally. And look, obviously, there's going to be it's a challenging thing tonally. There's going to be a little bit of a disconnect when you go that wide in range. But it has to be said, if you nail both parts of it, they can marry. It's possible, especially when you have a lot of time. All the Bucks were spectacular here for, what they do. I thought they were completely on the money. Darby Allin immediately returns to his role as like a human crash test dummy.
Wild. It's his first match of the year. He did all that.
Yeah. And the main thing is he's kind of... Claudio Castagnoli is one of the great wrestlers of his era, but at this point in the game, he's almost two different people. When he, one when he's not wrestling Darby, and another when he is wrestling Darby. And maybe the best part of the whole match, it wasn't anything violent or gory. It was actually when the lads stopped Tanahashi from climbing. That was superb.
Sit on a ladder. No.
Yeah,
It's okay.
And the way Tanner sold it, like, oh, come on, guys, let me have fun, And we will always remember forever him power walking to the spot of the finish.
He certainly can. I don't think his knees bent at all while going up to the top rope.
No.
Let me tell you something. Sitting in the second row watching that guy try to get his balance was very scary. Like he can't quite navigate the AEW top rope, can he? Like he doesn't know where to put his foot. Yeah, but obviously always an honor to see Hiroshi Tanahashi, in which I believe has been confirmed as his last UK appearance, right?
Yeah.
I first saw him 10 years ago, I think. So
wow,
pretty cool, and obviously one of the greats. And they had that hot post-match angle too.
Yeah.
Which, everyone in the building had the same reaction. I'm sure you guys had it watching on the Grinalong, which was someone's got to climb the cage. And they were sort of trying, but the baby faces lacked urgency until the big men arrived. Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs, who were frantic, brother. They were right on my side of the ring with it. They were yelling. Joe was swearing at the fella in the, by the bell. Raise the fucking cage. It was a scene, and it was what they needed. And the best part of the whole angle, which I don't know what came from camera, what didn't, but Moxley and his guys looking at Joe, waiting for the cage to just get high enough that they could scurry away. Oh, that was superb. I love a locked cage angle. How did that thing come across on TV, Novi? I'm intrigued.
It came across, I thought it did pretty well. The camera, the way it was shot, it didn't necessarily show the baby or the Death Riders kind of preventing them from climbing. I really wish they would have zoomed in on, I saw the clip after where Ibushi just kind of ran full force into the cage.
Yes.
I really wish they would have shown that. That would have been pretty awesome to see in that context. But I thought it worked pretty well. Definitely could have been shot better. That's probably my only thing. To kind of put over, okay, they really can't climb the cage because they're being stopped. But overall, Ospreay died in the middle of that ring.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It was indeed. And, obviously he got an incredible reaction. The O2, that goes without saying.
Very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
The response that really got me was Omega. It's a different kind of pop, and it's more like this sort of respect thing. I think I described it as adoration on the Twitter gimmick. And Kaden, I think it's easy for us to forget, right? We all obviously think a lot of Kenny Omega, and we all would deem him a legend. But I think his status sometimes we kind of take for granted how much reverence people have for him that go to these shows, right? You've probably seen that when you've attended AEW shows, Kaden.
Yeah, that's one where whenever Kenny's showed up at a show in the last probably 5 years, since we got back since the pandemic ended, Kenny Omega gets this insane pop, and it's like you said, it is that adoration pop. It's not the same type that I've heard Will Ospreay. Yeah, there's just a different vibe in the air, which is hard to describe if you've never actually been there and been able to hear it. But it is just very different. He is he's one of the greatest of all time, and people know that. And because of his health issues over the last few years, I think especially since he returned in 2022, and even more so now since he returned earlier this year, it is a sense of if you are seeing him now live, especially wrestling a match, you are getting a special occasion that you might never get again.
Absolutely. It was a superb atmosphere throughout the night. I should note that. And that, I think, that makes everything more fun, right? And I will say, and this is a quick note that is more relevant for any Brits watching this. I think if you're watching this video or you're online, you're aware of our presence, the Late Night Grin and all that stuff. I think people take for granted the importance of AEW's UK TV deal. I've been to a lot of Rev Pro shows. I've been to New Japan shows in the UK. I can tell you straight up, guys, it is a different crowd at these shows. The amount of couples and families, with all respect to the shows I just mentioned, the amount of women that I saw that were exclusively there for Timeless Toni Storm, and you could tell, there were a lot of, in my section, women that made no sound during the show, and then Timeless Toni came out, and it was they leapt to their feet in adulation. So it's a different crowd, and I mean that as a compliment. I think you can underestimate how many people still do watch on TV, even on tape delay. So nonetheless, main event was awesome. Great match to be there for live. Obviously, something happening every minute. I'm intrigued, Novi. That was your favorite match. What would be your 2 seed for the night?
think it's actually a tough pick for me. I think, like you said, there wasn't like any big star-studded affairs on this, like in terms of like quality. That there was a lot of very good to very good. And if I really sit, I think I'm going with Zack Sabre Jr. and Nigel McGuinness. The vibes in the arena, like I'm a big vibes guy whenever I watch wrestling. I want to hear the crowd. I want to see them get excited. I want to see them interact with the match. And they were locked in for this one. And, you know, it's obviously sick to see Nigel performing like this in the O2, sold out O2. But to see him in there with Zack too, it's just, it was just very special. I don't necessarily have a huge like history with Nigel or anything like that, but it was just, it's nice to see a guy like that get a moment like this.
That was the first thing on the show in person that had that big fight feel. I think the only thing that matched it in terms of atmosphere at the opening bell was Max and Hangman, which I'm sure we'll get to. But it had an incredible... It actually reminded me of being at like a big boxing match at the O2, especially with the videos they played before.
Yeah.
How great was Nigel's entrance, right? I mean, no doubt. And it was a special scene seeing him soak up that response. I mean, the people love Zack, but they were there for Nigel in terms of that match, right? And it was really cool. The match itself was really good, I thought. Nigel, this is going to sound more critical than I intend it to, because at the end of the day, he's wrestled 4 matches in 12 years.
Yeah.
It's very apparent at this point, after we've seen him back this long now, it's been, you know, a handful of matches. I don't know if he's ever going to be able to go through the gears as he once did. And again, I want to stress that that's entirely understandable, considering... And so his matches do sort of level out for me, but I still thought it was really good. And I did think this is the best he's looked since he came back.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And Zack allowed that.
Yes, exactly that. And in addition to that, and Kaden, I'll go to you here. Like, stylistically, this was the right fit for Nigel at this point, right? Where they could grapple and they had a nice crowd for it. What did you make of this match?
This was just a very nice match to watch. It felt like comfort graps to me. They're just, you get the hot crowd, which adds so much to it. And I knew it was going to be a heated match. So immediately I was like, okay, I need to turn the volume up on the stream and make sure I listen to as much as I can from the O2 crowd. But I think the way they did it, like I was slightly worried that they were going to be a little too grapply, a little too for the UK crowd doing that style. But I thought that they did a good job meshing. You do have the grappling and the submissions, but they start beating the piss out of each other at a certain point. And I was shocked at how like hard they went. That's just not what I expected out of a Nigel McGuinness match in 2025, especially with Zack, because Zack has gotten to that level, especially like recently. I thought his G1 did a good job of like cementing him back into that spot as a heavyweight, but it's still just like, it wasn't the vibe I got whenever they were doing the technical spectacle stuff and really driving home that they were just going to basically grapple for 15, 20 minutes. So it surprised me in the ring to an extent, and ended up just being like I said, just comforting. And it's one that I'm definitely going to go back and watch over the next few weeks.
To your point about the physicality, the surprising physicality, maybe the best spot in the whole match I thought live, I don't know how it came across on TV, Nigel taunting and baiting Zack into that turnaround lariat that he caught him with.
Was awesome.
And do we talk enough about Zack's very unique approach to taking the lariat, where he just seemingly like just does a head drop bump to the... What is that deal? That's a pretty wild. He did 3 times in this match. Good luck to him.
He's a demon with the bumping. I don't like. He's totally unique whenever you see him. He just kind of like does a lot of folds too. Like, if he gets hit really hard, he'll just kind of curl up into a ball on the ground.
Yeah. He's I don't know if that's a thing people talk about, but it stood out to me watching him live in a way that and I've seen him a bunch of times, but I don't know. It's just stood out yesterday.
It pops.
Sunday, whenever the fuck it was. All right. Forget we're not live, you know. Okay, I'm going to approach and I'm going to tackle now, you know, allegations of bias, completely expected. I'm going to tackle now the AEW World Tag Team title match, the triple threat that was not an elimination match with the Hurt Syndicate, the FTR and Brodido. A friend of the channel and I were messaging during this show, and I said to him, this is the first ever triple threat tag that I would describe as Americana. And I mean that for all of the good and bad that entails, because it was clearly dealing with some political ramifications. It featured an angle / run-in that didn't really make any sense and was poorly timed in this. Like when they did the reveal, like the crowd wasn't even paying attention. It featured a violent chair shot to the head again. Make that what you will, Americana, regard, you know, right or wrong. That is what it is. I can't change that. That's what American wrestling has been. But at its best, it was actually pretty sick. It was a really weird. And then the finish was this was all over the place. And that's why, I concede it wasn't an artistic home run. But there was some flashes here that I thought, like, to this point were the best match in the show. And then by the end, it was like, I don't even know where that. I don't know what to feel about that. But I had a great time watching it. I mean, for whatever, political elements around Bobby and Shelton, I thought they were good in the match, whatever that's worth. Novi, do you agree with my assessment? What did you make of the triple threat tag?
Look, man, I know we all want some perfect wrestling matches sometimes. There's sometimes I sit down on a pay-per-view right around the middle of it and I go, I need to see some big fuckers whacking. Yeah. I need to see them throwing bombs. Now, hold on, Kaden, don't do that, all right? Don't do that. I mean, we're all talking about the punches. Come on now, all right? Have some respect for the FTR, would you?
Yeah, no whacking talk around here, please.
Yeah, come on. This is productions. This is big time.
That's for talking shop. That's where they talk about whacking off.
Yeah, true.
Very true. Very true. But I thought this match was very charming. I mean, it was just, I popped huge whenever the run-in spot happened because I go, that's interesting. And we didn't see him again. And I said, well, that means we're going to get a new winner, new champs.
Speaking of such, did they say on commentary where MVP was? What was the deal with that?
Nope.
Not that I heard. I didn't hear anything.
Now, if I was going to be more reasonable and level-headed, the thing that actually was good about this match, the way they focused the match, they built the match around Brody's hot tag was actually sick. And the way they shined him out, the way they built to him and Bobby face-to-face, they made Brody like a king here. And it has to be said, he was one of the most over guys on the whole show. So I did that, by the way. Okay, what did you make of this tag?
Very good.
I quite liked this match until like the last 2 minutes were a little weird. Besides that, I thought they kind of just like, look, man, I don't think I can get a better description than what you said about Americana, because once you said that, I went, oh my God, that's exactly what this was.
Everything that American wrestling
Americana. Is. 100%. It did everything that you would expect in American professional wrestling. The only thing I have to really add is I was confident going into the show that I thought Brodido were winning these tag belts. I thought they were going to win in Glasgow and then go on to beat the Hurt Syndicate. And then once they made the triple threat, I was even more confident that they were going to end up winning this belt with some shenanigans to get the Syndicate out of there. I did not think that they would go so far as to they needed to not be in the arena when that happened. Yeah. However, it is also very beast, and I respect it. So yeah, I liked this. I'm happy for Brodido.
I am too. I think in a vacuum, it was the right decision because the crowd loves this act and they've been really good. I do worry... I hate to be that guy, but I do worry a little bit about what their reign actually looks like in the sense of like, who are they going to work with for the belts in big matches? That was my only thing. I understand the sentiment of FTR, Cope and Christian doesn't need the belts, but I do think there's some truth to what Lost kind of alluded to on Twitter, which is maybe the belts need FTR versus Cope and Christian. That was my only concern.
Yeah.
We'll see. Hopefully Brody will have a great reign. We all agree they're a great team. Right, so
fantastic pairing. It's really like just an inspired booking decision to put these guys together. They're two cool as fuck wrestlers tagging. Like that's always gonna roll.
Agree.
Yeah, I personally just think it's, and it might end up being wrong because if they don't get booked at all, nothing's gonna happen from it. But I think having a new team, especially with guys like Bandito and Brody, it can help elevate other teams in the division that are kind of like have been sitting there not really doing much recently. And again, like a lot of it does come down to how they end up being booked.
For sure.
But I'd rather see something new a little bit. Whereas I think at the rest of the in AEW, everybody at the top is very consistent. They're stars who have been made for a while, and Tony's actually the most recent star out of all of them. But besides that, everybody else has been a star for quite a while. So taking a risk, not a risk a little bit, but like, kind of elevating a team to that level. I like what they're doing.
If it doesn't work, it won't be a reflection of either guy's wrestlers. I think we all agree on that. Okay, let's talk about Hangman Adam Page and Maxwell Jacob Friedman for the AEW World's title. This was a fascinating experience. I thought the first half of this match was great. I loved the first half of this match. These guys have an obvious physical chemistry, right? It's very apparent. They enjoy their dynamic with one another as characters. I think they both think there's a lot of depth to it, and I actually would agree. I think this Hangman like conflict is the best Max has done in terms of blending online sentiment with his character. In that, what he's doing is he's addressing like a fan like Novi, for example, right? You know, with the main character stuff. But he's doing it in a way not to say, I see your tweets, but more to say, as a bad guy, I'm really insecure about the way you guys see Hangman Adam Page. Like, he's kind of blurring lines in a way that I think is actually the best he's done that. And the first half of this match, he was a total heel at every turn. He was cheating, he was bowling, he was playing Larry Zbyszko. I thought it was going great. I thought they got a little carried away with the table stuff on the outside. They were at ringside for a really long time, which stands out more when you're in the building, obviously, because it's, you know, a different thing.
Can't see him.
Right, exactly.
Well, Joe could.
Well, I could see everything. Yeah, I mean, I was in Gorilla. But obviously the controversial part of the match is after that, which is when they go into the finish. I've really considered this. Here's where I stand on it, boys, and tell me if you think I'm crazy. I think the issue with this finish was, for me, I think there was two finishes, and they sort of paired them. And here's what I mean. If you want to do a dusty finish where Mark Briscoe comes out and says, Bryce, his foot's under the ropes, restart the match, that works fine as a finish. If you want to do all of the other Bryce stuff where he's sort of like the main character of the match for 5 minutes, that's another finish. It felt like they did both of them. And I love Bryce Remsburg. I'm not being critical of Bryce. I think the world of Bryce Remsburg. But he's a very theatrical fella.
Yeah.
And he was so involved that by the end of this, it was a little bit hard to sort of take seriously. Now, here's what I will say. And this doesn't mean you have to like it, because I wasn't keen on the second half of this match, clearly. I just said that. It definitely worked for the O2 Arena, right? It definitely worked. And I'm sure that came through. They bought all of the ups and downs. It just felt a little bit too cute for my money. What did you guys make this? Novi, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I really do like when these guys wrestle. I think they have great chemistry, like you said. They know how to work each other. They know how to sell big for all their offense. They just have a nice pairing. But I think there is a tendency in a lot of these big matches with Max where they try to play these games. And I don't want to see, like, I'm fine with Max healing it up. I think the first half was the best, like he'd been doing it in some time. That is what I want Max to be. I don't want to do the dusty finishes in every big title match. I don't want to have the ref being involved in every big title match. There shouldn't be a ref bump in all of them. Sometimes I just want to see Maxwell Jacob Friedman be a wrestling heel and have a wrestling match. You can do all the cute stuff too, but you just have to blend it better with the actual wrestling. And I don't think they blended it very well at all. I think it was actually quite jarring to have the big, they did the big moment where Bryce, he woke up and he counted to 3 and then he woke up and said, no, wait, I was wrong.
I didn't really get that. Yeah.
It just didn't make sense. And that was kind of the thing. You don't want that to happen in one of these big title matches. It's not what you want your world title to be, the position you want it to be in. And, you know, for all of that, I did think it was like a fine match. I didn't think it was like the worst thing in the world ever. But it, like you said, got a little too cute.
I do wonder somewhat, and I apologize this because I'm playing defense for Max. No, it's not my intention. I'm being honest about this. I do wonder somewhat if part of the issue is out of their hands, in the sense that I think there is a fatigue among this fan base for this stuff. And I don't think that's a reflection of what these two guys have done so much as we had that stretch where, like, obviously WWE, we've discussed, there's a lot of run-ins and riff bumps in their main events the last few years. And obviously the Death Riders with the Wheeler Yuta stuff, right? I think there is a little bit of an appetite for, like, can we have some world title matches that are just wrestling matches? I think.
Yeah, there definitely is.
And it's the same way. We'll talk about Tony Storm in a second. I think the same way people are, like, kind of hesitant about long title reigns for the same reason. It's a strange thing to navigate. Caden, I think we spoke about this last night. You was not too keen on the finish of this world title match, I believe.
No, I have a lot of issues with it. My biggest problem, I agree with the two finishers thing. But for me, we're in an era right now in American televised professional wrestling, where these finishes for world title matches have to be an event. It can't just happen as much. Like it can't. Like, there are obviously matches where it does just happen, but you think back to the Bloodline saga where there was a run-in. You have all that. You think back to Adam Cole's reign when he was NXT champion. Kind of started that a little bit, where there were a few of the matches had their Undisputed Era run-in, especially towards the end of the reign. I think back specifically to Portland was a big one where there was that entire thing, and then you have the Gargano turn on Ciampa. So that was a big kind of sign of, okay, this is where we were going. And then you have Triple H, who's done it a lot. Max has done it a lot in his stuff, and he did it when he was champion. And Mox did it a lot. So now you're at the point where you think that with Hangman, we're moving in a new direction, that you don't need to do the antics. And not only do you have the antics and you create the spectacle, the finish with the gimmicks, you do 5 to 10 minutes of it. And you do, as like what you said, where you did the 2 finishers. So that's where I have more problem with it, where like I think fans are just kind of getting very sick and tired. I was trying to think of like a nicer way to say it, but they're getting a little tired of this just being how main events have to, or like big title matches have to end now, and it's just kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said too. You talked about the length of how long it went on. This match was 31 minutes long. All love and respect to the guys. I really don't have an issue with matches being super long, especially world title matches. But I think when you're working this style of match and it has a lot of the elements that this one did, I think 30 minutes is a little tough.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Look, the counter to what Kaden said would be the crowd loved it. The counter to that, if you're Kaden, is the crowd would have been entirely satisfied if it was less convoluted. And that is, I mean, that ultimately is what this debate comes down to, right? Because no question, the crowd, when Hangman hits the buckshot and they close the people were more than with it, dude. This was the match they were most into at this point in the night by the finish, you know, because Nigel and Zack had a great atmosphere, but ended kind of abrupt, right? This did anything but end abrupt. And the crowd was into it the whole way. So if you know, I think there's a very fair reason to push back on our kind of fatigue. But I don't know. We'll see what comes up in the future. I think there is, you know, I don't think this was as good as their Revolution match. I think they have a much better addition to the series ahead of them. Couple final notes from me here before I tell a quick FTR story. Kyle Fletcher and Hiromu had a like modern banger, quote unquote. It was a really good match. It wasn't like Kyle Fletcher has had more interesting matches because he's such a good heel. This was much more him just like, let's just do a fun undercard match for 15 minutes and hit moves. And it was good. It was a good match. We all enjoyed that. Good for Hiromu to be on that show. Toni and Athena definitely, I think, fell short of expectations. I did like the match. The finish for this was nothing like the Max and Hangman match in terms of how convoluted it was, but it did feel like they got the finish wrong to me. They built the match around the pole driver, and ultimately the pole driver is just a false finish, and then they did the Billy Starks Mina stuff, which was clearly intended as a bridge to the actual finish, and instead, how you guys felt in the building, I thought it just took all the momentum away from the match as they went home. Good match that felt almost like it wasn't given the space to be great. Do you think that's a fair description, boys, or am I off base on that in the building? What do you think?
No, you're definitely correct on that front. I liked a lot of the work they were doing. I thought their offense and stuff was quite good. They had a decent dynamic, but I just don't think the match flowed particularly well. I think that the part you mentioned is a major happening on that front. There's definitely a better match in them. You can talk all you want about the result. We're just talking pure match. I think there's a better one structure wise down the line.
For sure. Elsewhere, God, seeing Mercedes Moné in a match like that is just a treat because you can tell her game plan is I will spotlight all 3 of these women for the entire. I don't think she may have genuinely not gone past 3 offensive maneuvers in the whole match. She just got the absolute shit kicked out of her every turn. Big showings for Bozilla, Persephone, Alex Windsor, no surprise, getting over great.
Windsor.
And got a great reaction in the UK. Quick mention for Okada and Swerve, which I thought was a good match. Obviously, Swerve's hurting, right? And they kind of worked that into the match. But it was good. And I will say, for whatever it's worth, I'm sure it wasn't as fun at home, maybe. But the Copeland Christian tag was actually a pretty good time live. I got to be honest. It was. It got a good reaction.
I had a good time with it on stream. Marcus very much did not. And he even said, he was like, it depends on what you like and how you feel about it. I was able to buy in with the crowd and kind of just turn my brain off and went, you know what? They're having a good time. This doesn't really hurt me. I'm just going to vibe with them and end up loving it. Or not loving it, but like I loved my experience with it.
Yeah.
I agree. Big shouts out. Sold out O2, bleeding like that. Very good business.
It reminded me of the the Eddie Hearn meme where he does the how'd you fluke that one? That'll be in 30 years will be the answer to the trivia question: when did Cope and Christian team up for the first time since returning to wrestling? Is in there. Okay, final towel here about the beloved, the great FTR. That photo did pretty well on the Twitter gimmick. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Sure did.
I'm a numbers guy now, fellas.
Bangers.
My social media manager told me it did well. So obviously we had the release of the Tokyo tape, which was awesome. We presume if you're watching this, you've seen that. The reaction has been great, and all the guys involved have been very kind about it, which I appreciate. After all, they gave me their time, and it would have been quite unfortunate if it was bad. And Dax the Axe mentioned to me, he was like, if you're in London, we'll grab a drink or something if you drink. And I was like, well, I certainly don't drink, but we could share a Pepsi Max or something and talk about professional wrestling. So it was, I think this was Saturday. Yeah, it was Saturday. My brother and I were in London and we grabbed dinner. And the O2 Arena, I mean, you guys probably just think of it as an arena, but it's a whole there's like 70 restaurants in there. It's a monstrous place. It's absolutely monstrous. So we headed over after, and Dax and Cash were intending to go for dinner, and we were just going to say hello. That was it. Grab a photo, pop Twitter, do our thing. And instead, to the surprise of no one that watches our stuff, if they know one thing about me, it's that I love just talking about professional wrestling in a very broad, aimless fashion. We just did 2 hours of an LNG post show with the FTR boys, and my brother was sitting there, and we were just talking about wrestling. And I mean, as a wrestling nerd, it's awesome, obviously, to be able to just sit there and just ask a few questions about different psychology things and wrestling history things. It was it was the most nerdy shit ever. I mean, I was full on just what about starting the match this way? Just like the nerdiest. And they was, for whatever reason, they were willing to play ball and answer my questions. But my story isn't about Dax and Cash. It's one for where we took that great photo. They were very kind. So we're leaving, and I'm saying, oh, brother, that was a hell of a time. And my brother, who I'm just so thrilled I get to bury him on this glorious platform, he goes, bro, I've left my bag. Dude left his bag in Dax the Axe's room. Can you... I mean, seriously, there's incompetent, and then there's just straight up, like, you can't invite him to anything, Yeah, he just sat there, he didn't say a word, and he leaves his fucking bag in Dax Harwood's room. Mind you, this is on the eve of a pay-per-view that's going to be in front of 18,000 people, okay? So I have to message Dax Harwood on the morning of his AEW World Tag Team title match. Brother, I think my brother's left his bag in your room. I tell this story because it's a burial of my brother and a put over of Dax. So Dax Harwood, as he prepares to fight Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, Bandito, and Brody King, takes my brother's shitty little plastic bag down to the front desk and sends me the picture of like the note and was like, it's at the front desk. I've got it for you here. And I was thinking, more than anything else I experienced in the last week, God, life is very strange right now. But I have to, if he sees this, thank you very much for that, Dax, because you was very, very much within your right to go, what a fucking idiot. Go fuck yourselves. No, I got to prepare for the Forbidden Door. So that was very funny, but it was an awesome deal. And I tell this story to say, yes, I knew how funny it was to take the photo in front of a bed with the hashtag the Tokyo tape. That was very apparent to all of us. It was very funny. In addition to that, I say this truly to say, it is wild how fucking loud our community is. We are able to con very important people in wrestling into thinking that we're a major establishment. Because we're just so loud, dude. Like, there's not actually that many of us. But people just look at Twitter, they go, these guys must be killing it. They must be... We're over here with our 800 subs, bro, cutting and strutting, just doing our thing. So
they're seeing all the retweets, all the likes, all the interactions while it's going live with the hashtag. I mean, we're fooling them, playing a big game.
Absolutely. So shout out to the lads, and it's mainly a big thanks to folks like you two and everyone on the Grin that does these shows with me, and everyone watching these things that has allowed us to kind of become wherever we are. I don't know, but this last week was a bonkers kind of surreal experience. So I say all this to thank you. Obviously, again, love to the FTR for being cool and tolerating my nerdy questions about jump-starting wrestling matches and stuff, and Bobby Eaton, things of that nature. So yeah, that was Forbidden Door. It was a great weekend, great time. And, someone that doesn't go to shows as much anymore, sometimes I think it's a good thing to have a little bit of a break and just, it's a nice refreshed mindset going in. Some really cool stuff at the O2 Arena, which is a wonderful building. So Good times. Forbidden Door in the books, fellas. We'll see what's next for AEW. We'll see what's next in pro wrestling. Appreciate you both. Thanks for watching, folks. Please like the video and subscribe for more grins. To join us live almost daily, head to Late Night Grin, hitting the join button for exclusive watch-alongs, wrestling history lessons, and live Q&As. Keep grinning, folks. All hail.